Hi, my name's Hailey Bachrach, and I'm really excited to be introducing you to Henry VI Part 1 for the Shakespeare 2020 project. Now, first things first. If you start reading this play, and on the first page see all these references to Henry V and think that you've somehow gotten completely confused and out of order, don't worry. They are talking about the Henry V that Shakespeare wrote a play about, but he hadn't written that play yet at the time. He was making reference not to his own character, but to the historical figure. There were other plays written about Henry V around this time, one at least that exists, and probably others that are lost. He was a famous king, someone who just sort of existed in the public consciousness, the way that you can watch a movie about Abraham Lincoln, and no matter how many details you know about his life and his politics, you have enough of a sense of who he is, that people can reference him and you don't need a lot of explanation. This play also makes reference to events to come in Henry VI Part 2 and Part 3, and in fact was very likely more a prequel than the beginning of a new franchise, if you will. We think it was written after those other two plays to cash in on their popularity. It's very useful, though, for readers today because it sets up these historical ideas that people at the time would have been very familiar with, but we don't know quite as well. So, reading them in the number order, 1, 2, 3, is still a great way to go about it, and it provides a great introduction to concepts that are going to recur across all three plays. One thing that doesn't return that I think is particularly exciting about this play is the depiction of Joan of Arc. Obviously today we're used to thinking of Joan of Arc as literally a saint and a hero, but remember, she was a French woman who was fighting against the English, and relatively speaking, not that long before Shakespeare's own time. So Shakespeare provides a very English perspective on who Joan of Arc might have been, which is very different from how we're used to seeing her, but I think that makes it particularly exciting and interesting. I say Shakespeare. Of course, Shakespeare is one of the authors of the Henry VI Part 1 and the other Henry VI plays, but we have a lot of reason to think now that Henry VI Part 1 is a collaborative play, that he wrote it with other writers of the period. This happened a lot. We don't know all the details of how it would have worked out, and we're not 100% sure of who those other writers may have been, but it's very likely that what you're reading is not completely Shakespeare, but rather him working with others. Further proof, really, of how embedded he was in the theatrical culture of his time. He wasn't this unique lone genius, but one of many people working in a thriving theatrical culture. And this play is a really exciting example of how people wrote as groups in this time. My final tip is, rather like the collaboration that went into writing the play, if you're doing this project with friends, which I think would be really fun and you probably should, get them together and try and read this play and actually all of the Henry VI plays out loud. They can seem a little bit intimidating on the page because there's all these lords and all these battles, but when you read them out loud, you really hear the individuality of the characters and the pace of the scenes. They become really exciting when they're read out in the room. I think it's a fantastic play. I hope you enjoy it.